The former Archbishop of Paris, Cardinal Jean-Marie Lestrigier, was a convert to the Catholic faith. Born and raised a Jew, his journey to the Catholic faith was not an easy one, because the Cardinal's mother, together with many of his family, were murdered during the Holocaust. And despite his conversion to the faith and his vocation to the priesthood, he continued to consider himself a child of Israel and a Jew. Despite many accusations that he had betrayed his Jewish heritage, Cardinal Lestrigier worked tirelessly to promote good relations between Christians and Jews, and he did everything in his power to fight against anti-Semitism. But perhaps his actions spoke louder than his words, and one action in particular. Every year, on the anniversary of his mother's death, he would go to the main synagogue in Paris and pray in Hebrew the Kadesh, the Jewish prayer of the dead, honouring his mother. Today, the Church gathers to honour Mary, the mother of all Christians. But it's not her death we recall today, but rather her entry into everlasting life. Today is dedicated to the honour and memory of our Blessed Lady, and the great feast of the Assumption marks that moment in history when the course of Our Lady's life on earth had ended, because she shared so uniquely and intimately in the life of Christ. God would grant Our Lady a singular grace and a unique privilege, that she would be the first to share fully in the glory of Christ's redemption. The doctrine of the Assumption teaches us that God would not allow any stain of earthly corruption to touch the body of our Blessed Lady, for she, in the mystery of the Incarnation, had given birth to God's only Son. And in the symbolism of the Old Testament, Mary is the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy of Holies, the very tabernacle where God's presence dwelt. She is the purest of all God's creatures. But Mary is also God's lowly handmaid, the most humble of all of God's servants. And yet we say that she is the highest honour of our race, whom all generations will call blessed, as the Gospel proclaims. For from the very first moment of her earthly existence, Our Lady was held free from all stain of sin. And in her yes to God at the Annunciation, she would become the first disciple of Christ, the new Eve and the mother of the new redemption. And at the foot of the cross, she shared fully in the suffering of her Son, and was the first to eat the new food of salvation from the tree of life, which is the cross. And it was from the cross and from the dying lips of our Saviour that Jesus gave us his mother, our mother and the mother of the Church. And each one of us is called to make a place for Mary in our homes and in our hearts. When her earthly life was ended, Mary was received body and soul into heaven. It was her final act of witness to Christ, her last service to the Church, and as the mother of all Christians, she points us to our final home, to heaven, and to be members of God's family there. Our Lady also reminds us that each one of us has a wonderful and extraordinary destiny, to be like her with Christ in heaven. For when like her, each day we make our own yes to God, and when like her we follow in the footsteps of Christ, then we are assured of a place with God in heaven.